Safety Commission order. It's 8:32. Can we start with a roll call?
Commissioner Cervantes. Commissioner G.
Here.
Commissioner Ding.
Here.
Commissioner Osarov is absent. Vice Chair Watson is also absent, and Chair Donnelly.
Here. So we have a quorum, so we'll proceed. We also have Council Member John Primuth joining us. Are there any public comments today? No public comment.
There are no public comments.
So let's move right into approving the minutes of the October 17 meeting, if everyone has had a chance to review them. Are there any notes or edits? Okay, let's go back to public comment then.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
Yes, this is Renee Daly. I would like to make a public comment about the application process for a license to carry concealed weapons. During the last meeting in October, Chief Selinsky indicated that beginning in October.
Can you hear me?
So, sorry, Renee. Councilmember Primuth, you're with us?
Sounds like looks like you can.
We can. We have a public comment going on. Renee, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's no problem. So Chief Selinsky indicated during the October Public Safety Commission meeting that beginning August 1, South Pasadena was the exclusive agency for issuing the licenses to carry concealed weapons. And I was wondering if, one, the department has begun processing applications for licenses to carry concealed weapons. Two, if they have not, whether they've decided to conduct psychological examinations. Three, have they set a fee schedule to process the applications? So those were just my questions for the Public Safety Commission.
I think I saw something on the council agenda about the fee schedule, but Chief's going up to the podium.
Yeah, Mr. Daly, and for anybody else that's listening, at the last council meeting, council approved the fee schedule. So that is moving forward. The department is now processing CCW applications. And then as far as the psychological, yes, we have included that in our process. So for anybody that's listening or that has an interest, if you go to the police department, contact Lieutenant Tom Jacobs. He's accepting the applications and we are starting to process them.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Thank you, Renee. Commissioner Al-Sarraf has joined us. So let's move on again to the minutes of the previous meeting. Was there anyone who had discussion items or edits to those minutes? If not, if we could get a motion to approve.
I motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah, Walter has made a motion. Can we get a second?
Oh. I can second.
Okay, Commissioner Ding seconds. Can we have a roll call vote on the approval?
Yeah, it's gonna be Commissioner Cervantes, Commissioner G,
Yes.
Commissioner Ding,
Yes.
and Chair Donnelly.
Commissioner Al-Sarraf is also.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Osarov.
Yes, apologies for being late.
Okay, and I will also vote approved. So we'll move on to the main part of our discussion today, which is the development of the Public Safety Commission work plan. Chief, do you have a presentation for us?
Absolutely. If you look on your screen, and some of you that are here have hard copies, this is the 2022 work plan. And so the purpose of this document is just to refresh your memory of what we intended to accomplish over the last year, but also to start the discussion on what we'd like to see for the 2023 work year. So there are a couple of things that are pertinent and they're based on the month. So as we move into January, January is a little tough for us. We usually don't put anything on there. That's the first of the year. Obviously, we're coming out of the holidays. And then what we'd like to do is just to kind of pique your interest, answer any questions, and start the discussion on what we want to see. And then we'd come back in January and then have a more robust discussion with a completed document for voting and approval. When we look at the current plan, a lot of it is really based around community education and outreach. And then, as I mentioned, there are a couple months, October, September, we usually have the public safety city open house. We have some holiday events that are coming, and then keep in mind also that there are 2 meetings throughout the year that are closed. I know Chief Riddle is here, and he has some fire and safety type of prevention programs that are coming. I know October we have the Great Shakeout. What he and I had also talked about is we're coming up with the approval of the hazardous mitigation plan and the emergency operations plan. We wanted to incorporate the commission in that process, as you guys have already been involved in the planning of it, but also coming forward with training. And as we adopt it and moving forward, really incorporating the entire community with the Map Your Neighborhood program. And what that entails is looking at what the skill sets of everybody in your neighborhood are. If there's law enforcement, if there's medical professionals, if there are engineers, is really getting a robust account of who's in your neighborhood and what type of skill sets they have, so that if we did have an emergency, that we have people within the community to draw on, not just within this, not just city employees. So I'll let Chief Riddle talk to that. But again, this is really just to start the discussion and get people thinking about what we'd like to see in the coming year. Chief Riddle.
Morning, Chair, members of the Commission, Chief Riddle. Yeah, and as Chief Selinsky stated, also included in your packet was the 2021-2026 city strategic plan that was also approved by City Council. So we want to make sure that we're in alignment with that where possible. And in Section 3, that's what Section 3 of that document is where it highlights the goal of the fire department and police department, public safety in general, to focus mainly on emergency preparedness. And again, as Chief Selinsky stated, make sure that we're in line with our emergency preparedness documents, the EOP, the local hazardous mitigation plan, the CERT program, neighborhood watch, and make sure we're exploring every opportunity to make sure that those are in alignment with each other, as well as with the strategic plan that's been adopted. So the work plan, as we work through it, that's the monthly themes. We'll circle back on some of those items and make sure we're touching those.
Chief, is there a specific month that would make more sense for CERT and Map Your Neighborhood?
Those are pretty fluid in terms of their evergreen programs. So, earlier in the year is certainly good times for those because they're already in place. We're working on it. So that'd be a good start to the work plan flow.
Okay.
Is bringing those discussions early on in the year.
Okay. Are there any, in terms of aligning with the strategic plan, are there any challenges that either department faces that we should be looking at?
No real challenges come to mind as far as meeting the goals in the strategic plan, or our goals of meeting adoption of the EOP and the local hazards mitigation plan. So really no hurdles that we can overcome for sure.
Good. This is a question for both chiefs. Is there something that has been addressed in previous years that's not in the draft plan that we should be looking at, or there's something that you see on the horizon that we should be considering as well?
From fire, and I'll let Brian speak specifically for PD. The only thing with fire that is continually is the the climate change and how that's impacting our wildfire mitigation, and how there's partnerships forming in the San Gabriel Valley in terms of leveraging funds, grant funds, to make sure that the smaller cities are included in the funding to help mitigate some of the hazardous vegetation that is becoming more and more of of a concern as we're building homes in a high hazard interface area. So, we've said it before, a quarter of our city is in what we consider a high hazard brush interface. And, that fuel there's no brush fire season anymore. It's a year round. I mean, we're in a nice rainy season right now. But, we could find ourselves in 3 weeks with a Santa Ana wind event and all the fuel is dried out again. So it's a year round endeavor that we want to make sure that we're keeping up on and leveraging all of the grant funds that are available to us.
Okay. Go ahead, Chief.
On behalf of the PD, law enforcement's always changing. So I think we're really trying to focus this year on community engagement and outreach. And that's where I think the Public Safety Commission could really help us, not only spreading our message, but helping bring that message back to the PD as far as if you're hearing anything from the community, as you all do, and you've all been wonderful. But if there's anything that we can answer or do more in the community, we'd certainly like to hear that. We're coming out of COVID. Crime trends are changing. There's a lot of misinformation that's out in the community. So we really depend on that portion, that part of community engagement education to reach all the numbers. And what we're finding is the methods that we've used in the past, be it paper and mailers and those type of things, that reaches a certain demographic within the community, and we're missing another half of it. So we really focus towards the electronic piece of it. And now we're finding, well, that's not hitting everybody either. So we're really trying to refocus on how we reach our community. What's the best method, but then it also has to be feasible as well. So we certainly invite any opinions or thoughts that the commission has and ask for your help to partner with us as we move through the next year to get that information out. We've got a lot going on with finances and strategies on how we're going to approach next year in terms of crime suppression. We have our our department assessment, which I don't know if Chair Donnelly, if you're able to comment on that a little bit later in the meeting, but there's a lot going on within the police department. We certainly want to get all that information out. We want to be as transparent as possible. And not only that, but invite the community to be part of the process as well. So any help we can get with that, we'd certainly appreciate as we look at developing this work plan for the next year.
Okay. I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners for their input as well. But the last question I have for you is, I know in June you mentioned the police department assessment, which you just touched on. Would that also include any data from the RIPA reporting?
So that's my goal. So we've been working on the RIPA reporting. RIPA started last year let me back up a little bit and I'll kind of give you the whole picture here. RIPA started a couple years ago, and depending on the size of the agency, larger agencies started first. South Pasadena, because of our size, we were in the last phase, and we started collecting data in February of 2022, and we'll turn it in April of 2023, and RIPA will create a report. And that report will be released to the public. Not only will South Pasadena, the police department, release it, our goal was to include it in part of our annual report and then also make it available to the public. Now, public can certainly go directly to the RIPA website, which is managed by the state, and they can grab that data. What I'm hearing now from a lot of the different agencies is the individuals that are in charge of RIPA and putting that data out is they're significantly behind. So I don't know at what point they're going to get that out there. As soon as South Pasadena gets it, we want to put it out as soon as possible. That RIPA data is going to look at, it's the Racial Identity Profiling Act, and it looks at all the contact that the police department has with individuals within the community. And it'll show the different disparities in race, age, and gender, all encompassing from victimization to arrests to traffic citations, everything that the police department basically comes into contact with. So that information will be made available to the public. Like I said, I want to put it in it was our goal initially to put it in our annual report. I think there's a timing issue. We try to get the annual report out in February, March, give or take. If RIPA is not going to be available till April, and then they're delayed, that may be sometime in the summer. So we're going to try to get it out as soon as possible. We're doing a number of things on the police department side behind the scenes to try to get not only that data out, but more robust encompassing data as well. And our goal is to create a series of dashboards on our website so that the public can go there, they can see the information, they can click on it. They can learn about the police department. They can, in terms of that type of data and racial profiling, and see exactly what the numbers are, what they represent, and what they mean. Because there's always going to be disparities, whether it's racial disparities, it's gender disparities, or even age disparities. The question really becomes is why, and that's what we're hoping to do, is provide the information and then the why, and break it down into that sense. So there's a lot of work we're doing behind the scenes, but to answer your question, April is the date that it's supposed to come out.
Okay. And just so I understand the process clearly, the data is collected by SPPD and then transmitted to the agency, and then they develop and publish the report.
Correct. So right now, South Pasadena, after every stop, we submit data to the State Department of Justice. They collect it. They're going to produce a report, and that report will come out from the state in April.
Okay. So any delays would be on their end. It has nothing to do with the speed that you're processing or reporting the data, that kind of thing.
Correct.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Oh, Chief, just can you speak to the community that may be curious? How is that race, gender, age being collected? Are you guys asking? Are you guys guessing? Especially like for a consensual encounter where you may not actually be getting their, name, date of birth, etc.
That is a great question. And the way the data is collected is it's anybody that we come in contact with, but it's all perceived information. So when the officer first contacts an individual, it's the officer's perception on their race, their gender, their sexual orientation. There's no names or anything collected with that, but it is based off the officer's perception. So it is prior to the officer receiving identification, or any confirming information. So even with that, there's some discussion right now as to how that may be modified in the coming year. It's just when you're talking about perceptions, there's a number of different gaps that could and misinformation that could be accompanied with that. So I know there's some talks in the legislature after the first year with everybody doing it, how they can go back and maybe alter that to make it a little more informative and accurate.
Well, what are the data points again? Gender, age, race, and sexual orientation?
Sexual orientation, the reason for the stop. I want to say there's about 15 different categories.
Okay.
But I would like to add that I mentioned the police department is looking to add a more robust set of questions that our officers are going to answer. Just to give you an example, is one of the questions we're asking our officers to start collecting is, were you able to see the individual prior to the stop? Meaning, were you able to determine what race, what gender, those things prior to you stopping them? So for instance, if you were to see a speeding car on one of our city streets, did you see the individual prior to stopping them? So we really want to collect a lot of data. And we're asking the community also, we'll be sending something out to some of our advocacy groups to come up with questions that they may want answered, because we really want to provide a lot of data and information and provide answers to the community as far as why we're doing what we're doing and how that information is collected, and then give the whole picture. As I mentioned, there's a lot of, there's going to be disparities, but it's why there's disparities. So for instance, when we look at stopping a specific group, we may have disparities on a specific race, but why is that? Is it because we're next to Highland Park in El Sereno, which is predominantly Hispanic? Is it because we have roughly 130,000 people that drive through our city every day, because the 210 to the 10 freeway, the 710 stops, right at the 210. And then of course it doesn't pick up till you get to Alhambra. So there's a big influx of our population that we're not taking into consideration. So there's a lot of things that go into that. We just want to make sure we're capturing the data and that everyone has a chance to see it, and we're being as transparent as possible.
Well, just a question on to me, it sounds like, I'm sure there's training and all that stuff, but it sounds like the officers have to do a best guess. Is this person Hispanic? Is this person Asian? And sometimes it is hard to tell, but from a data quality management point, are you guys disallowed from asking at the end of your encounter, hey, just for reporting purposes, can you let me know what your identification is for race, gender, age, sexual orientation, or whatnot? Or
Well,
disallowed or discouraged?
So there's two different parts to that. So for as far as RIPA goes, we are not allowed to ask when we're filling out the RIPA information. So that is designed to be prior to the officer getting any confirming information, and the officer is not supposed to ask to confirm the race, age, gender,
Okay.
sexual orientation.
So
So
it's based off officer perception. is
officer
what they're trying to
perception
get to.
only,
Yeah.
correct. Now, after the stop, which we keep in-house, that's our own in-house data. We would keep that information because now we have a confirmation when the officer stopped, got a name, got a date of birth, got an age, got a racial confirmation, any of the other identifying information. So there's really two sets of data there. There's the perceived data and then there's the confirmed data. So that's why I think I mentioned earlier is that there's some concerns throughout the state with the RIPA report and what information and how is it going to be validated? And there's a lot of assumptions there simply because it's based on perception.
Cool, thank you.
And so our goal would be to put out both sets of data at the end of the year. Certainly we'll have our data in our annual report, but we wanted to compare that with the RIPA data. And that's where there's going to be some disparities as well, is what's confirmed and what's perceived.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Ding, is there anything else that you would recommend that we look at to include in the plan next year?
I can't see what's being presented, but the one I sent you, I had emailed the chair, the one from 2020 from when I was chair, just as a reference, and I think that covers a lot of the items that were of interest during that time. So nothing in particular.
Okay, and what we're looking at, Jeremy, is very similar. Is there a reason that Commissioner Ding can't see the screen? What do you see on screen?
Oh, it's just the chambers is what I see, not what's
Not the
being
presentation.
projected.
Can I just clarify? This was the 2022 work plan that we had this year, right? Do we have a draft proposal for 2023 yet, or are we working up from a blank
We
slate?
do not have the draft for 2023. We're starting the discussion now. We will bring the draft back for January and then be able to approve that based on today's discussion.
Okay, well, we're working on getting that up on screen. Do you have anything else, Commissioner Osroff, that you'd like to take a look at for next year?
Yeah, a couple things that I wanted to just raise for discussion. One is, I know historically we've had a commission member who has brought to light issues related to school safety and things that are happening with the schools. And that may be something that might be maybe a more regular thing that we can get perhaps from staff, but I thought maybe we could consider adding something related to school safety if there's something that's relevant that comes up during the year. The other thing, and I know that Chief Riddle is working on this already, is the after action report for the COVID pandemic,
Yeah, that's a good one.
which I think is supposed to be ready at some point in 2023. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we'll be bringing, once FEMA officially closes out the COVID as an incident, then we have 6 months to prepare that and bring that back to council. That the draft has obviously been being formed since we entered into the pandemic. So that is definitely something we project that to be coming in the first quarter or maybe mid 2023.
So would it make sense maybe to do that later in the year, or do you think it'll be ready? 6 months is.
At least at the midpoint. And again, being that this is a workable document, a living document, we can be flexible with that and adjust as we need to, like we've done in years past. But I think it would be safe to at least put it beyond the first quarter, midpoint of the year, June, July.
That was it as far as additional things to add.
Yeah, with Commissioner Kung no longer with us
Yeah.
on the commission, she's still here on the planet. She had a lot of personal insight to the school safety issues, and that is something that we are lacking without her.
Yeah.
Something to look into for sure. Commissioner Cervantes, is there anything that you'd like to take a look at next year?
Oh, his mic is off.
I have something, a question right now for something that's happening. This is for Chief Riddle. My question is, I just saw on my phone an alert for what's called flooding danger in South Pasadena. And I am wondering if you clarify what areas is it that we are in danger of flooding with this rain? Could you clarify that?
So I would say, where did the alert come from would be the first question. If it was generated as a general alert, sometimes the National Weather Service will send out alerts when there's a cell over a rain cell over a community, wherever that rain cell is, they're going to send out alerts for potential flooding on the streets wherever. Being that we have no recent wildfire, there's no current threat to the hill area that we're aware of, and certainly we would be made aware of that. And then the only other alert that would be potential major flooding that we would be alerted to is in the wash, the Arroyo Wash. If something was happening up in Altadena or Pasadena, and we were getting a flow in the wash that was over the banks, we would be notified of that as well. But we've been monitoring the wash, so there's no reported flood threat there. So I guess I would go back to the original: is where did that alert come from? If it was from the National Weather Service, then it may be just a general alert that potential flooding is could be just because of the cell that was over the city.
Yeah, well, what I remember when I first moved into my house and I took an insurance, I was told that I should take a flood insurance, and I don't live on a hill. I do have half a block from me one of those wash things that comes from Pasadena. And so it's always in the back of my mind. In the 40 years I lived here, it has never flooded or anything like that. But when I was told that it comes back to worry me, is this something that we should be aware? I just got the alert on my phone, and it's one of those that they send out.
Yeah, so that would
And
be
it said South Pasadena in particular.
yeah, that would be a WIA alert, a wireless emergency alerting system. So that's usually broadcasted. Various agencies are licensed to send out alerts via that platform. And the most common would be from the National Weather during a severe storm. So, but being that you're near the flood channel, a lot of times anyone's, because they can delineate who's getting those alerts, and they can set perimeters around that flood channel from Altadena all the way down to where enters into larger wash basins in LA County. And anyone living in that corridor could be alerted as to potential flooding. But again, we didn't get any alerts that there's anything that's not within normal parameters for us. So if we weren't alerted in addition, I would say that was probably just a WE alert from the National Weather Service, being with the amount of rainfall that was coming from a specific cell recently.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another, this item is for next year. And one of the things I have that worries me quite a bit is the amount of homeless people that are coming to South Pasadena. And I see different ones. And the reason I see them is when I go to the library, I go to the senior center to teach a class, I see something in that area. And then when I take my dog for a walk on Garfield Park, I see that too. And that just seems that is a problem that is not going away. I read not long ago an article from Tony Robledo that was very commendable, his approach, because I think most of those folks that are homeless like that, I think they're 90% are mentally unbalanced. There's something wrong. And I, as a person, I wouldn't know how to help them, but the article that Officer Robledo wrote was very compassionate and very right. What you call, he hit the problem what it, the way it was. He really captured what the whole thing was about. But I think this is a problem that is not going away. If you go to South, to the, drive just a little away from South Pasadena, it's really terrible. I mean, you see homeless there, and everywhere. So I think this is a problem that we should address as a city. And I think it requires everybody cooperating and with the police and whatever department is going to be looking after this. And if I may add, one more concern I have is I keep hearing some folks saying not to fund the police or reduce them and whatever. But the problem is, if you're saying the traffic is horrendous, people are not listening to anything, they're flying by. People are, their attitude, I think it has got worse with the pandemic, but the attitude is such that the only person that they would respect probably be a policeman. So to me, that is not the answer. Defunding the police is not going to fix anything. I think, if anything, from talking to Chief Solinsky and exposing to him what I seen as part of the traffic and all that, and how they try to monitor the certain areas, I gather that they're just short of people. They need more people. So to me, instead of talking about defunding, I would say increase the number of police. My humble recommendation for that would be a sensitivity training. We are no longer 1950, no longer everybody's white. So we have to be sensitive to other races like, Latinos, Asian, Blacks. And also another thing that I want to throw in the mix, they also need to be aware of people with disabilities that on the outside might look perfectly normal, but their approach to things is totally different from the way you and I would say. And I know that's a large menu to put on your plate, but we really need to also be sensitive about this group of people, because we do have quite a few people that have disabilities, and they could, we don't want to have to confront a problem that because these people was misunderstood, they got hurt, they got shot, they got this. And if we could have that included in the training, so they, they could be more inclusive. But to me, as far as I know, defunding is not the answer at all. We actually need more. And the ones I personally have met, I've been very impressed by, but we need to increase, and we need to have that before they are out in the force. They need to be trained properly to the standards of 2022.
Yeah, Chief, can you comment on that?
Absolutely, and all very good points. And part of the police department's challenges as we are right now is one is we are in a staffing shortage. So the police department's down 7 officers right now. I have 3 additional officers that are out on long-term disability. We have a number of internal professional staff that are out. So it is very challenging. South Pasadena is not unique. All of law enforcement right now is short on personnel. So we are doing our best to recruit. But to your point, Commissioner Cervantes, you're absolutely right. Training is key. And it starts from the hiring process, and that's hiring the right types of people. So when we go out and we recruit, there's a number of people that apply, but it's not only just who can pass those types of tests, but also the right type of people. South Pasadena, we always say, is a unique community, and it really is. It's very diverse. So we want to get an individual that is not only capable of being a police officer, but that's also the right fit for South Pasadena. So that even becomes a little bit more challenging, especially as I mentioned, when all of law enforcement is short on personnel. We're all trying to pull from the same group of individual potential employees. It becomes a lot more challenging. So we are working on that. And to your point with the traffic and the homeless, that takes people. And as we're working today, I mentioned we're roughly, when you encompass all the vacancies and then the long-term injuries, we're 10 to 15 people short. When you're talking about a department that's only 36 sworn officers, that's a huge chunk of our force. So we're doing the best we can to get out there and to do the most we can and be effective and efficient, but it is somewhat challenging. And I'll provide updates as we move forward with our recruiting process. But to the homeless issue, you're right. I think it's a state problem. We're seeing it everywhere. But more importantly is how South Pasadena is addressing it. And I can certainly put that on the upcoming work plan. We're doing a homeless count in January. So we should have a good indication. The county puts out the final numbers. There's a multiplier for every homeless person we count. They put in a multiplier for those that we don't come across. Depending on how the county works, I think this year they were about 6 months behind, but we can certainly put out a document and a presentation. I'm guessing probably somewhere around the March, April timeframe, so that the commission has a better understanding of where we are with our homeless population and then the rest of the community as well. And we certainly would invite the commission to be a part of that, not only the homeless count, but the process as well. And then as far as school safety, Commissioner Al-Sarraf, I was thinking somewhat around the August timeline when school starts. We can look at doing not only updating the community on what safety plans we have in effect, but then also we try to work with the school board and the various schools within the community as far as updating their safety plans, doing some sort of training with them. It really, a lot of it depends on them, but we do have a very good partnership with them. So I think that's a great thought there, is to not only talk about it in August, but as things come up, as Chief Riddle mentioned, this is a very fluid document. So we can come back and update and provide different updates and trainings throughout the year.
Great, thank you. Commissioner G, did you have anything you wanted to contribute to?
Yes. So, hi, everyone. I have been listening to the discussion and regarding school safety for, I am a parent of 2 young kids. So if there's anything in particular that you need data for, I'm happy to talk to the school board, talk to the principals of each school, and get you whatever data you need for whatever report. I just need to know the specifics. And I think that if we are going to do something more with school safety, that August is a very difficult time for the staff and for the teachers, because early August is when school starts. And the best time would probably be during the summertime. Perhaps there are some trainings that we can, like CERT trainings that we can give teachers to do during the summertime. But by August, if you're trying to do something, it's just a crazy time of year for the school community. So I guess to summarize, number one, I'd like to know exactly what items you need to research for your report. And number two, consider reaching out to the schools before the beginning of the school year to better develop this safety plan that you have. And then in regards to the mapping the neighborhood, I'm not sure if this is a good time to go back to that. That was a few discussions ago. Would this be the appropriate time to talk about that again?
Sure. Is it something that you want to include in the work plan?
Yes, it's an idea. And this would also help if you needed more personnel, but to recruit the volunteers in the youth community. So we could easily arrange for a Eagle Scout project to have our older youth work on mapping the neighborhood, going door to door, making those relationships. Perhaps if they map one area, if one individual scout maps an area of a certain square mileage, that they get a Eagle Scout project out of it. And if they can help with homeless count or be trained on how to work with the unhoused population, I think that it's a resource. The youth are a resource that are underutilized. So I just wanted to, think that we could talk to the youth commission and see if we can work together with them to get more volunteerism and to promote that volunteerism at an earlier age. So those were my comments. I'm not sure if they're relevant to the scope of this commission, but I'd like to see more of that in our community. And as a parent, I'm willing to reach out, talk to the school board, talk to the different schools, talk to the PTAs, PTA council, and just let me know what you need from me as a parent, and I'm willing to do that.
Great, thank you. I think I took some notes, and I think we can distribute those after the meeting in regards to potential topics or the things that the commissioners felt were important to include. Looking at the work plan for 2022, it certainly seems like most of it could be slotted into some of the existing categories for, for example, the homeless outreach update, et cetera, school safety. So I'll talk to the chiefs about how we want to present that in January. And then we should be able to get the draft plan together and then move forward for next year. Let's move on to city council liaison. John, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. Initially, I had no speakers, so I missed the first part of the meeting.
Okay, you're with us now, though, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, the city council met in December, and we heard an update and provided direction on the emergency operations planning that's been going on. We know that it's an ongoing process, and I'm pretty impressed with the amount of work that's gone into it. They're trying to restructure the actual document so it's a little more user-friendly. As you can imagine, as you accumulate all of your needs and plans for all types of emergencies, the document gets pretty unwieldy. So they've restructured it. They're drawing upon some really good best practices in a clearinghouse statewide, nationwide. So anyway, so that we heard an update on that. The council is getting ready for the admission of one new council member at the next meeting. So Diana Mahmood, who did not stand for re-election, will roll off, and Janet Braun will be appointed and as the elected representative for the 5th district. And then we have the swearing in of our new treasurer, Jen Tao, and reorganization of city leadership in terms of council leadership. And then we have a number of other things going on, a lot of holiday activities. We're getting a really good start on the audit this year on the financial side. Our housing element continues to be a matter of very intense focus. We're going to be doing a lot in the next year on zoning and general plans and specific plans, so pay attention to that. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer anything.
we have any questions for Councilmember Primuth? No.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Staff liaison communications.
Thank you. Just a quick couple updates for fire. Just to circle back on our current recruitment for firefighter paramedic. So we've narrowed down. We have one candidate in the final phases of background. And we anticipate that individual coming on the department early January. And that'll replace one of our long-time tenured employee who is retiring in late December. Department assessment. So the fire department will be doing their own department assessment as well. We're forming the RFP and we're just kind of waiting to see who PD selects and then kind of see if they can dovetail into doing the fire as well, or if we need to go to a separate, but we're poised and ready to submit that RFP and put it out. So that should be coming in the first quarter of January 2023. We are still continuing to collect toys for the Spark of Love toy drive. And I bring that up because we get a lot of questions on when how can people donate toys? And the fire station you can drop it off the fire station anytime. We have boxes also at the PD and City Hall. But this year has been, the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, it was really slow. This year, we've had a tremendous outpouring of donations with toys, which is really good to see. And so we work closely with, not only our local school district and try and get most of those toys distributed locally where they're needed. And anyone who knows of anyone who's in need, any families, they can contact me directly. And my information for contact is on the city website. Emailing would be best, and we can make sure that most of those toys get distributed where we can in the community. And then for those remaining toys, we work with neighboring cities that may not be getting enough toys, or the neighboring hospitals as well, to make sure those toys are being distributed throughout the, to the children who may be in the hospital during Christmas time. And then finally, just a note update on COVID. I know there's been some news as far as potential spikes. We haven't seen anything that operationally is affecting us, but certainly this has been a kind of a triple whammy of COVID, various variants out there, as well as cold and flus that, are definitely impacting, our day-to-day activities in terms of potential risk. So, but we haven't seen any, it's not affecting our staffing at all at this point, and our call loads are remaining pretty consistent. And but again, I think the message is just continue to practice good hygiene and follow all the, recommendations as per LA County, and protect ourselves as much as we can. And other than that, I'm available to any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Chief Riddle? I have a quick question, Chief. During the height of some of the previous COVID spikes, you had reported to us about wait times for the ER at
Yes.
Huntington Memorial.
Yes.
Are you seeing anything like that right now?
Not at this point, and I'll tell you why. The hospitals are being inundated. There's no, I think there's two factors that are allowing us to get our RAs back in service quicker. One of them is we've just worked very closely with hospital staff. They've also been impacted with staffing, right? If we're being impacted, they're being impacted with employees who are out sick or exposed or quarantined. So when we have a patient being transported to the hospital, we understand that there's times where the hospital wait is going to be extended just because they have no nurses or doctors available. And the patient that we have may be triaged at a lower level. So they're not, a critical patient in nature. So we will stay with our patient for up to, a half hour, 45 minutes. At that point, the hospital realizes they need to take delivery of that patient and get us available back into district. So, and if it starts to increase more than that, our on-duty division chief is contacted, and we start making contingency plans that if this is something that's going to continue throughout the operational period, then again, we work with the hospital to create a triage area outside the emergency room, and we will help staff that with RAs if needed. But that's something where we adjust with our automatic aid agreements, and we make sure that all the communities are being protected through the auto aid agreements as well. So I know that's kind of a long answer, But I will say at this point, we haven't had any significant delays. But as in the past, we have contingency plans if the spike really starts to develop and we're seeing extended wait times.
Okay, thank you. Chief Zelinski, do you have anything for us today?
I updated you already on everything I was going to talk about, which was our recruiting effort. And then I did want to mention one thing for the community is Santa Claus is coming to the police and fire department on December 20th and is going to be escorted around town. So if anybody's interested, that'll start at 6:30 and we'll be going through several areas of the city. We'll be making some stops at some schools and parks, and you can find that on our city website.
Great, thank you.
I have a question for the chief, just quickly.
Yeah.
Chief, I heard from along the crossing guard grapevine that there was an incident with a crossing guard getting struck by a car. I don't think it was a serious incident, but I understand that there was at least a minor one. Has that come across your?
I have not heard that, but I will certainly check into it and get back to you on that.
This is at Marengo.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but like I said, give me a little bit and I'll follow up with you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Let's just move into Commissioner Communications. Amin, since you're up.
I don't think I have anything else. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cervantes, do you have anything this month? All right. Commissioner Ding.
I don't have anything. My term is up in December, so this will probably be my last or second to last meeting, pending the appointment of a replacement. But it's been fun.
Commissioner G, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. So in regards to the wait time at hospitals, there are going to be, according to the news, there are more spikes of the flu in combination with the new strain of COVID. As a physician, most of my patients are telling me that the wait time at Huntington ED is about 7 to 10 hours long. These are just anecdotes, but you know, the hospitalist staff for the medical group that I work for, they're no longer doing direct admissions. It's just too hard. So I believe our EDs are getting, the Huntington Emergency Department is getting more inundated, and it would be nice to see that. Is that something that's going to be put in the safety plan as well? I don't know who would be able to answer that question.
In terms of how the fire department reacts to those times?
Yeah. Yes. I know that you had mentioned, the fire department had mentioned that you would help with the triage or waiting with the patient for half an hour, but that's really not enough time. I think it would be nice to have something more specific.
And I can clarify a little bit and to go back to the first, certainly we'd be happy to, if that was on the work plan, that's going to be a continuing discussion. You know, I think we all agree that, you know, the ERs and the potential for saturation isn't going to go anywhere real quick. I think this is kind of going to be the new norm. And I just do want to clarify that even though the wait times may be 7+ hours, that doesn't always mean that the fire department has to, or the paramedics have to stay with that patient. So there is some point where the patient transfer does take place and the patient is now in the care of the hospital. So we haven't seen those extended wall times like we did during the pandemic, where there was no hospital staff to actually transfer the patient to. So on average right now, our RA is getting back in service in about a half hour. Now, to your point, we are ready and we have contingencies in place if the day comes where the area hospitals are not able to transfer patient care, then, you know, the contingency is to set up a secondary triage area outside the emergency room, where fire department personnel would be actually staffing that. And it would be kind of the same model we use for a mass casualty incident. It's something we haven't had to do yet. We've come really close during one of the surges in 2021. But, we all agree that that's going to be probably the best, means of making sure that the patients who need medical care are not, waiting and exasperating their, their illness than why they were brought to the hospital in the first place.
Thank you. And my final comment on the unhoused, I think we should see what the mayor of Los Angeles, which is, our neighbor and much higher population than South Pasadena. It'd be nice to see what Mayor Bass's plans are going to be and to maybe mirror some of that in our community. So do we have, I'm sure we have networking with our neighbors in the other cities. So I think it'd just be good to find out what other city plans are and see what we can take out of that to apply to our community.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. I'll finish up. Commissioner G and I have been in the work group that is looking at the consultants who have submitted proposals for the police department assessment. The working group is 2 commissioners, 2 community members, and then the city manager's office. In October, we received 5 qualified proposals. We've reviewed them and we've asked 2 of the respondents to participate in an interview process that we hope to have done this month so that it can be presented to city council in January. That's ongoing. Not sure if we'll quite get it done before the holidays, but that is in the works. And then the last thing, I just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Ding for his service, both as a commissioner and as the chair. And Jeremy, it's been very valuable to have your professional insight on the commission, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
It is 9:29. We actually got the meeting done in less than an hour, which I believe is a record. So I'd like to adjourn and wish everybody safe and happy holidays.